Everybody, Sam Amico, Hoops Wire Live on 330 to go. It's so nice to be back. It's been a couple of weeks. The holidays. Hope everybody had a good Christmas, a happy New Year, and are feeling fine back at work. I know I'm feeling fine back in the 330 to go studio to talk Cleveland Cavaliers because, I mean, it's an easy team to talk about right now. And let me tell you, I've done that a lot this week. With the Cavs winning and rolling the way they are, I think I did, it must have been, I think 12 radio guest spots. And of course, the Full Court Cleveland show on FanDuel Sports TV. Do that every week as well. So let's just say there's no shortage of Sam Amico talking Cavaliers, if that's what you're into. But you know what? It's the Cavs' fault because they just keep playing so well. Now they've won 12 straight, beat the Oklahoma City Thunder in a fantastic game earlier in the week, and really was, the most hyped game in Cleveland since LeBron James was in town, without question. At least regular season game. I know I've never covered a game with LeBron James not on the team that had that much buzz around it between the Cavs and the Thunder, who, of course, the Thunder came into Cleveland having won 15 straight and, built a 9-point lead, and it didn't look great for the Cavs, and the Cavs ended up winning that game by 7 points. So just a great atmosphere, nationally televised. That game wasn't originally scheduled for ESPN, and ESPN flexed that game on because of both teams. And the fact that the Cavs won and that it happened and took place in Cleveland and that there was a lot of buzz about a game between, I think the Cavs are the 26th biggest market in the NBA out of 30 teams, and Oklahoma City's the 28th. So, market size in today's NBA is really not a big deal. And Kenny Atkinson, Cavs coach, obviously talked about that at great length and said, I think the NBA, the league office, and everybody around the league loves this kind of parity. And, in 2025, market size really doesn't matter that much because we have so many ways to distribute the information, obviously, through social media, websites such as hoopswire.com and many other spots. So anyway, they did that, and then they played not surprisingly, a very lousy game against the Toronto Raptors. If you're watching this live, that was last night. The very next night, after a very emotional win over the Thunder, they have to play the Toronto Raptors. And what's funny is here the Cavs are. The Raptors are terrible. They've won one game since December 3rd. Okay, so they came in. The funny thing is, now the Cleveland Cavaliers are the team with the target on their back. They're the team that everybody wants to stop their winning streak, beat the best team in the NBA record-wise, and the Raptors came in all guns a-blazes. And the Cavs rested Donovan Mitchell, their leading scorer for that game, and just could not get anything going. And, the Raptors shot, they shot just about 60% from the field as a team against the Cavs for the game. That's almost unheard of in the NBA. There weren't that many. There were too many open shots in the first half. You could just see that the Cavs were exhausted. And they said after the game, we were exhausted coming in before this ever even tipped off. And then you don't have Donovan Mitchell to boot. And just did not look that great. They didn't look like themselves. There were stretches where they'd look like themselves, but for the most part, Toronto was, hitting threes, high-fiving. They had all this energy, which was funny because Toronto did play the night before as well, but they just didn't have to extend themselves as emotionally as the Cavs did the previous night. But as has been the case this season, the Cavs can't help themselves. They find ways to win. And Darius Garland, 40 points, huge step back three-pointer in that game. Kenny Atkinson said afterwards, this is the first game all year where I feel like one guy carried us. Usually it's a complete team effort. Darius Garland, as humbly afterwards said, oh yeah, it was a team effort. But really, Garland carried them in terms of their scoring because they could get nothing going offensively. He just took over the game, which is so great to see. As a guy who's covered the NBA obviously a long time, I was covering the team last season, and I could see that Darius Garland, just by being in the locker room, and look, he's always a nice guy and great guy, but I could just see he wasn't himself, and there was something off there. And he has said, I don't think anybody was reading him wrong, because he had said, I lost the joy last year. Now, I mean, he had a broken jaw. He missed a lot of time with injuries. He never got his strength back for the second half of the season after that broken jaw. Because think about it, you can't eat. You've got it's basically soup, and if you're lucky, maybe like protein shakes or something for 6 weeks. So he never really got his strength back the second half of the season, and he really struggled last year and took a lot of flack from the fans and probably some media. And you can just see how the joy has returned. And I'm not just talking about on the court. On the court, he's been unbelievable. He's just had a complete about face. But in the locker room, you can see that and really I've never been in a Cavs locker room in my life that has this much joy in there. And I don't know that it's just because of winning. I think the guys are very connected. They have very good personalities. And there's just a lot of joy in there. And I think Darius Garland's kind of the poster child for that in terms of, just the happiness that he's exuding while playing the game. So the Cavs found a way to win. And guess what? Now they've won 12 in a row. And, well, here we go. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my 2 days. And I'll tell you what a back-to-back is like for, a mediocre sports writer, such as myself. But, look, the Cavs are 33-4, best in the NBA. Obviously have won 12 in a row, the league's longest winning streak. This after starting the season 15-0. So keep in mind, they've had 2 winning streaks of at least a dozen games, which is unheard of, almost. So they're 33-4 overall, 20-1 at home, 16-1 since December 1st. They are 10-0 when scoring 130 plus points, which should be the case. And they're 21-0 when they hit half of their shots, when they shoot 50% or better. So think about that. Out of 37 games, they've shot 50% or better in 21 of them, which I don't know if you know NBA stats, but that's almost unheard of. And the games that they don't shoot 50%, they're right there. They're shooting like 48, 49%. I would like to see what their record is if they shoot better than like 46%. So those are the stats. This is also their 12th. The longest active win streak in the NBA. And I'm going to read something here from my good friend of the show, John Sable, who tweeted out last night. Do you still say tweet, or is it X'd? He X'd out that the Cavs are now one of 5 teams in history to start a season at 33-4 or better. 5 teams in the history of the NBA. The NBA's been around since 1946. So they really, which is about 10 years after I was born. But they've really been just setting all kinds of records. Obviously, 33-4 is the best start in franchise history. They passed the best start in franchise history like 4 games ago. I think it might have been the game they beat LeBron and the Lakers on New Year's Eve. And, that was another another fantastic thing that obviously with me being on holiday break, I didn't have a chance to talk about was the fact that they played the Warriors at Golden State, went in there, took care of business against them, and then the next night had to go to LA to play the Lakers in LeBron's first game as a 40-year-old, which was widely celebrated, a lot of hype. And the Cavs had to do that after a back-to-back, getting to Los Angeles late, or early in the morning, actually, after their game against the Warriors, and going in there and beating LeBron and the Lakers in a game that LeBron and the Lakers really wanted for LeBron to beat his hometown team in his first game as a 40-year-old. And the Cavs went in there and spoiled that. And you know what was funny? That's like what they call in the NBA a schedule loss. So if you lose that game, people be like, well, yeah, of course, everything was all set up for the Cavs to lose against the Lakers. Everything was kind of set up for them to lose against the Raptors. Not as much as the Lakers situation, but, you're at the opposing gym, far on the West Coast, second night of a back-to-back. And what's funny about that game is it was New Year's Eve. So, we had a big group playing cards and friends, and it was just one other guy and myself sitting there watching that game and the Lakers game. I'm like, if they lose this, it's understandable. It'd be nice to see them win, but how do they win this game? Everything is so set up for them to lose. And my buddy says, oh no, they're winning this game. They're winning tonight. And I thought, wow, that's one way to look at it. And then I thought maybe, it's New Year's Eve, so maybe it had too much to drink or something. I don't know. But they ended up winning that game and dominating it for the most part in the second half. And I just thought, this is not the type of team in Cleveland that we're used to seeing. And by that, I mean, if we go back to the Mark Price, Brad Daugherty, Larry Nance Jr., Lenny Wilkins, Larry Nance Sr. Era, I think that's the last time we would have seen a team that takes the regular season this seriously. And you know what's so funny is all they talk about is the playoffs. We are doing this so we can be ready for the playoffs. Kenny Atkinson just keeps stressing playoffs. And, for a team with the league's best record, that's really the best story in the NBA this year. That's been the topic, the stress, the playoffs. And they hear the narrative from the national media, well, you got to do it in the playoffs. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But you know what? Other than winning a championship, the next best thing to me, covering this for forever, is give your fans a regular season full of fun and hope. And that's what the Cavs have done. So the one thing I liked about the Raptors game, by the way, is not only did Darius Garland score 40 points, but there were and this has just been so typical of them. They find a way, and everybody finds a way to contribute. Ty Jerome, 2 huge steals that people forget about those things. They're the old things that don't show up in the box score, but that's so true. Jarrett Allen dives into the front row to save a ball that the Cavs hit that would have been out of bounds. He dove and saved the ball to Caris LeVert, or maybe it was Darius, and Caris LeVert ended up scoring on a huge play that changes momentum. It's just 2 points, but really in the box score and on the scoreboard, but really those are the type of plays that coaches at every level, players at every level appreciate and help change the momentum of a game, even though you're not going to see that probably in most of the game recaps, or you certainly won't see it by reading the box score and the stats. George Niang drove to the lane and seemed like, they call him the minivan because he moves so slow. But he drove to the lane, and I'm like, where is he going to go? There's like 3 guys collapsed on him, and he just almost handed the ball to Jarrett Allen, and it ended up in a dunk. And I mean, those are the type of little plays that just change momentum, and really has been the calling card of this team. And Kenny Atkinson said it after the game, after the win over the Raptors. he said, look, we didn't play well. He said, I'm not happy with our defense these last 2 games. That's something we're going to have to correct. The Cavs have now finally 2 days off and then play Indiana at home on Sunday. But he said, Kenny Atkinson was not happy. He said, I know that, we have tired legs. And he said, I was planning on talking to you guys, the media. He said, I was sitting there preparing for a post-game speech about a loss. He said, because that's just the way I assumed this was going to end up. And he said he wasn't very happy. But he said, now, this is why it's so, a lot of teams have 10 or 12 of these games a year where it's ugly. They don't do, they don't play that well. They don't defend well. Their legs are tired. And Kenny said, this is why it's so hard to go 33-4. Because the NBA, as it's done since 1946, the beginning of, its origins, the schedule is set up for teams not to go 33-4. Not on purpose, but that's just the way it's set up. And he's right. Most teams have 10 to 12 clunkers a year. The Cavs have had 3, 4. They've won 2 of them. If let's say if you want to call the Atlanta games, they've lost twice to the Hawks. Jarrett Allen came out and said that, man, imagine if we hadn't played the great Atlanta Hawks. He's like, we'd be, 33-2. So they lost 2 games to the Atlanta Hawks, who I think are a game below 500 right now, or about 500. So those 2 games, I would say one of them was just a kind of a schedule loss. The other one was a clunker. The other clunkers, I can think of the Brooklyn Nets at home, who they should have blown out, and they were down 13 points in the second half. And when they won, I remember walking into the locker room thinking, I still don't feel like they won. That's how bad they played, yet they won. And that was the game that the scout behind me turned around and said, or I turned around and he said, the Cavs are so good they can't even lose when they try. So that's just where they are right now. And it's very exciting. And I think we can, sports fans can really get behind this team, Cleveland sports fans, because this is a team that isn't just winning games. They can make you proud. These guys are a bunch of good guys, and the locker room's very connected. They're having fun. They thank the fans after every game. Last night, Darius Garland did something unheard of. And we ran it on 3:30 to go. He thanked the media. I've never heard that before. When players are starting to not act annoyed with the media, and they generally they don't. I mean, everybody's nice to me. I could see why they're annoyed with other media members. I get annoyed with them too. I, however, have too much charm to get annoyed with. But when they start, Darius Garland said, thanks to you guys for promoting me for the All-Star game, because that counts for a lot. I don't even know why this is a debate or a conversation. Darius needs to get to the All-Star game. He's in. Will he be a starter? I don't know. He should be. So, a lot of it's the fan vote and the media vote, which is 50%. And LaMelo Ball, who's having a great year, but the Hornets stink, is leading the Eastern Conference guards. But, then the players and the coaches select the rest of the team. And the only question to me is, does Jarrett Allen get in? Darius Garland's going. Evan Mobley's going. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell's going. Does Jarrett Allen get in? I say yes. He deserves it. When Golden State tore through the league like this, like the Cavs are doing today, they had 4 All-Stars. The Cavs deserve 4 All-Stars. There's no question. Now, nationally, and there's a lot of competition for these spots in terms of, you can't, there's some guys that you just put in the game because they're absolute, traditionally they've been really good. you know, LeBron James is always going to make the All-Star team. And I mean, he deserves it, but I'm just saying no matter what kind of year he's having, he's going to be in the All-Star game, you know. They're always going to have a Laker or two, even though and Anthony Davis and LeBron James deserve to go, but does Anthony Davis deserve it over some of these other guys from teams that are winning a lot more than the Lakers? I don't know. Anyway, that'll be a topic for when they actually select the teams, and then you see Sam Amico lose some of this boyish charm and get angry. Let me tell you a couple of things about my last 2 days, which is not a big deal, but it really made me appreciate what the players go through. Okay, so like I said, I did 12 radio guest spots this week, and it's my own fault. They call and ask, hey, can you come on with us? I could say no, but I'm like, yeah. Only a couple times that I thought I wish I hadn't have said yeah, because I got like 12 other things to do right now. But I always remind myself it's only for 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes. And how many people? And you know what? When I'm driving around and listening to sports talk radio and they have other Cavs media members on there, I'm like, why didn't they call me? Yeah, that's healthy, right? Getting jealous over other people on sports talk radio when I go on way too much. So Wednesday, you know, the normal thing, everybody wanted me on because of the big build-up for the Thunder game. And then I get up to the arena. The game's at 7 o'clock, so I usually get there at 4:30. That's when the media comes in, usually, or when they open the doors for the media. So I went in at 4:30, do some pregame stuff, you know, post stuff to the website, just get comfortable. And then Kenny Atkinson meets with reporters. The game's at 7. He'll meet with reporters at 5:15. So talk to him a little bit, go back, update the website some more. This is just my usual routine. This is nothing out of the ordinary. So, you know, watch this intense game. Bob Finan, who's a friend of the show, sits on one side of me on press row and was talking my ear off. I'm like, Bob, I am so nervous right now. I'm like, you know, and then of course, you know, my oldest son texted me and said, boy, Dad, I bet you haven't been this excited for a regular season Cavs game or for regular season NBA game since George Mikan's debut. Now, I know a lot of you, which is great. He's got my sense of humor. Those of you who don't know who George Mikan is, he was one of the stars of the 40s. Which, interestingly, there's a Cavs connection there. For those of you who do know who George Mikan is, you may not know this, because you probably get out and have fun, unlike myself. But Larry Mikan, George Mikan's son, played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. An NBA legend's, or pioneering legend's son, Larry Mikan, or George Mikan's son, Larry Mikan, played for the Cavaliers 53 games in 1970-71. I know, yes. And if you thought, well, Sam, he's got a good social life, there's your proof that I don't. Okay? Because I know that. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, the rest of my day. Okay. So, I did the game, covered the game, you know, went and did the interviews and wrote my story. It got home probably, I guess, like 12:15 or so. And then, you know, for people who work 9 to 5, do you go home and go right to bed? No, you wait like 6 hours. Thankfully, I don't wait that long after I'm done working, after I'm done writing and driving home and getting home at 12:15. But it's probably 2 hours, you know. So then I had to get up, turn right around, and drive. I'm about 35, 40 minutes from Cleveland, as most of us in the 330 to go are. So I turn around in the morning, I got up at like, I think it was like 6:30 or 7. And then I drove back to Cleveland so we taped the show, the Full Court Cleveland show, which generally features Booby, Gibson, as well as myself. I looked in TV Guide, not in the actual hard copy. I don't know if that exists anymore, but like on the TV Guide on the internet. And the show description is NBA and Cavs talk with Booby, Gibson, and Sam Amico. Well, I've been giving Booby a hard time because he's not been there the last 2 shows, I think. But as you might know from 330 to go, we shot a Super Bowl commercial with Josh Cribbs, Booby Gibson, Hanford Dixon, Gab Cruz, who's been on the show here. And apparently they needed an old guy, so yes, I'll be there too. And yeah, so we shot a Super Bowl commercial, which is going to air during the Super Bowl. It's actually on Fox 8, where my good friend John Sable is a sportscaster. It's running on there all the way until the Super Bowl. I have not seen the commercial yet because just been a little busy. I don't know how to find a commercial. Do you just sit there and watch TV for 24 hours until the commercial comes on? Because let me tell you, I'm willing to do that. Or do you just record Fox 8 all day? I think what I'll do is wait and record the Super Bowl or something. You know, I did a lot of television, a lot more than I'm doing now when LeBron was here, and I didn't record any of it. And I just thought it was dumb. I'm like, why would I record that and save that? Now I kind of wish I had. Just to preserve those memories, not for any reason other than that. But yeah, and there's a lot of things in the past that I've written for magazines, like Cleveland Magazine I wrote for after the Cavs won the championship. I wrote a big spread for them and was on the cover and everything. And yeah, I threw it out, And so anyway, if you haven't felt sorry for me yet, I got back up to Cleveland, shoot the Full Court Cleveland show, did another show after that, a couple of radio hits. And I'm like, I'm just staying here all day because they're going to play the Raptors, right? And at this point, I'm on 4 hours of sleep, if that. It was more like 3.5. But I felt fine. And then got to the arena at 4:00. I just stayed in Cleveland all day at the Full Court Cleveland big play offices there at Burke Lakefront Airport. And let me tell you, the people at Burke Lakefront Airport, as wonderful as they are, don't really care about the heat in the building when it's 21 degrees. You're just going to survive in there. So, yeah, I felt like I had to type with gloves on. But other than that, it was a wonderful experience, and I felt very welcome. So we did all that, and then we went to the arena, and then it's back to the normal routine, 4:00. First thing I do, 4:00. So listen to this. 4:00, my routine at a Cavs game, the first thing I do, and it's usually 4:30 or 5, closer to 4:30 or 5, I go and get a coffee. Why am I drinking coffee at that hour? I don't know. So I'm wired again. And then you go and do your pregame stuff all over again. Kenny Atkinson comes out. I usually go down and talk to the opposing coach after the home coach. And then after that, it's back to the game. And I'm sitting there before the game tips off, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm exhausted. This is the first time I felt exhausted. When you get old, you're supposed to feel exhausted all the time. So I was happy that it just hit me at tip-off. And the game was ugly. They were kind of going through the motions. I don't want to say that they were going through the motions, but it just wasn't a very exciting game. There was no juice to the game. And so then I did the whole thing again. The game was over. Go in the locker room, talk to the players, talk to the coaches, and write my story. I was the last media member to leave the building because I was goofing off. I was trying to keep myself awake. I was goofing off with the other writers. They're writing their stories, or the other TV people. I'm talking to them, and then I sat down. It was like finally, so 7:00 game, usually over by 9:30. By the time you get all your post-game stuff done, interviews and everything, it's like 10:00. 10:00, I'm usually out of there at 10:20. Usually takes me 20 minutes to write my story. So that should tell you something about the quality of my stories. But I've just been doing it so long that it only takes like 20 minutes. So I did all that. Instead of sitting down to write my story, I goofed off because I was loopy from 3.5 hours of sleep the night before. And I got out of there at midnight. I I hit publish on the story, which is right now the top story on hoopswire.com. Dribbles, Cavs had a night to forget, but ride Darius Garland's 40 points to 12 straight win anyway. That's the top story, and that's the story I wrote and didn't finish until 5 hours after tip-off, which is unheard of in the sports writing business. That's beginner level stuff. Okay? And as I just said, I've been doing this since George Mikan was a rookie. So there was no excuse. And then all the other media members slowly but surely started leaving the media room and going home. Good night, Sam. Have a good one. See you Sunday. And I look and I'm like, I'm in here by myself. I don't know that this has ever happened. And I was scared. I was like, am I allowed to be in here by myself? I've never been the last person in the media room. And there's always still workers walking around, but the media door is shut, so you don't see them. So it's a very lonely feeling when just 20 minutes earlier there were 15 people in there, you know. And I'm always I'm not always the first to leave, but I'm right in the middle. And there's usually like 7 or 8 at least people left when I leave. But last night, yeah, haunting feeling, Sam Amico alone in the media room. And you know what the first thing I did was? And the Cavs probably know this. There's a little closet in the back. And I went and I've never seen what's in there. So I went and opened it. I thought maybe there's a bunch of, last night was hat night. I thought maybe there's just a treasure trove of bobbleheads in here. And I opened it, and alas, it was nothing but cobwebs, and it was where the power is. So I could have messed with the power, I guess, and but there was no tree. There was a box in there, and I kind of pulled it off the shelf to see what was in it. And it was just a bunch of game notes that they hand out to the media. So I was like, there is probably some security guy sitting somewhere looking at me doing all this. And then when I go to the next Cavs home game, they're going to call me into a room and play back the tape. But you know what? They know me. They're like, of course, we set it up so this is what Sam would do. But yeah. So anyway, that was my night. I finally hit send on my story. I started to walk to the door. I packed up all my stuff, started to walk to the door, and I thought, oh, the Cavs like it. They want me to send them, the Cavs PR department, after I publish my story, they want me to send it to them. Because, long story, you can't copy off of my website. You can't go in, take your cursor, and copy and paste it to whatever you want. It has to be, you have to have some kind of software. Why that is, my business partner set that up, so I guess that people wouldn't just copy and paste our stories and take it as their own, which if you're talking about my stories, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But that's the way it is. So I had to go back in, sit down alone by myself, and copy and paste my story and send it to the Cavaliers. And then finally packed up my stuff, got in the car at 12:10, at which point, after midnight, I did the natural thing and called John Sable, who of course has 2 little ones, including a 6-month-old. And I thought that he would still be awake, but I guess I was wrong. So I got home and I'm still wired. I'm still wired. 3.5 hours of sleep. So I start, I turn on Netflix. I'm hanging out. And 2 o'clock, my body just shuts off. And I woke back up. I'm like, wow, did I just die for a second? and then sure enough, I fell asleep, and I probably could still be sleeping right now had I not had to come here and do this show. When I woke up after 8 hours, I got 8 hours. I felt like I could just sleep for until the Ohio State game starts at 7:30 tonight. I'd have no problem with that. So it really hits you not the day after 3.5 hours of sleep, but 2 days after. At least that's when it hit me. I don't know if you're looking for a sleep specialist. If so, I can send you my business card. with all that great information. But my sleep. Thank you, Brian, for the nice message. Brian, by the way, plays old man basketball with me, and Brian, of course, being young, I'm just the old man in old man basketball. Unstoppable underneath, unstoppable. So, we could probably do a whole show on Brian at some point, Brian Turk. Anyway, so that is my story for the week. While during this break, George Niang, Darius Garland had a quote about basically how the Cavs aren't worried about what the national narrative is and all that. And I ran the quote on Twitter, and George Niang retweeted it with a quote of his own and said Darius Garland's the best point guard in the league. Just time for somebody to say it. So I saw George the next game, after the next game, and he came up to me. He's like, hey. And I was like, yeah, George, I feel like we have a special connection now. And now that you've tweeted me, and he's like, what's that mean for me? I said, well, right now I'm the only one benefiting from it. But, I've got some jokes. He's like, I know, I've heard them. I've seen you on the show. I've heard your jokes. He's like, I could work on that with you. So, that's the plan for the new year, is George to help me with my jokes. And I'm going to try to help him in turn as well. So, had a good laugh with George. I always have a good laugh with Tristan Thompson, just because I've been covering him since he came into the first day Tristan Thompson came to town. He was walking into the Cavs practice facility at the same time as me. He was a rookie, 19 years old. And I just, hey, Tristan, see, I'm Amico. Can I ask you a few questions? And yeah, great. And we talked for a little bit. And ever since then, he's done nothing but make fun of me. and he tells me, sometimes I make fun of you behind your back. That's the worst kind of person. He says that. He admits I'm the worst kind of person. I make fun of you behind your back. He's like, when we're watching you on TV in the locker room with Booby, we will make fun of you. He's like, but don't feel bad. We make fun of Booby too. So that's not surprising. Tristan Thompson, Booby Gibson. For those of you who don't know, we are not fans of either of them this evening. And I've made them both aware, because they're both Texas guys. Jarrett Allen, Texas guy. I have not made Jarrett aware. Jarrett, you could make aware. He's the nicest individual in NBA history. So I don't want to tell Jarrett, yeah, I'm not a fan of you tonight, because you're always a fan of Jarrett Allen. He's just the nicest guy in NBA history, and one of the top probably 250, 300 in human history. So, things are going great. The Cavs are rolling. 12 straight games. They've got a tough one coming up. This is a big week. Again, as far as regular season basketball goes. But these are all kind of those litmus tests. Is litmus test the right word? I don't even know what a litmus test is. I really don't. Anyway, test. It's all a big test. And they've got Indiana at home on Sunday. The Pacers have been playing well. They go to Indiana on Tuesday. I had actually thought about driving over for that game, but it comes out of my budget, so I probably won't. And then Thursday at Oklahoma City. Obviously, the Thunder going to be looking for revenge, and they're a very, very, very good team. They remind me a lot of the Cavs. Young, a lot of togetherness. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, their guard, I think you've got to consider him NBA MVP. Very grounded guy. I love what he said after the game. People were talking a lot about the market size and if it matters. And he said, well, it sure doesn't matter to me, because I don't want to, I couldn't imagine. This is the place where I came, that they accepted me. And he said, and you know what? I get plenty of attention in Oklahoma City. He's like, I don't think I'm going to get any more by going anywhere else. It's just, if you play well enough, they're going to find you, the fans, the national media. And he's right. Eventually they'll find it. Look at Nikola Jokic in Denver. While Denver's a bigger city, obviously he's able to, they're not a traditional power, the Denver Nuggets, yet he's made them a big deal, and he's always in the NBA MVP conversation. So Oklahoma City is very much like the Cavs, and the Cavs have to play them Thursday after beating them in Cleveland in a really, really hard-fought game that lived up to the hype. You don't often see that, games living up to hype. That one did. And I tweeted out after that both teams can be proud of that. And the Cavs certainly, and their fans and the organization through 37 games have really just a huge reason to feel proud of the team that they've assembled, the type of people they've assembled, and the media people who are willing to stay up all hours of the night to make sure that we get word out about them. So there's probably like 20 other things that I want to talk about, but we're at 42 minutes, so we should probably wrap it up. For those of you who haven't wrapped it up and said, okay, Amico, I'm cutting you off after 10 minutes, like probably my own mother. So with that in mind, what a great week. Keep following the team. Keep following us at hoopswire.com. And, of course, keep following us at 330 to go, as I myself love to do. So on that note, we will talk to you next time. Thanks for joining.